If the mysterious objects filmed over Peter Grant's residence turn out to be some form of covert experimental craft, then that would come as no surprise to scientists and engineers who gathered at the University of Sussex, near Brighton, for the Advanced Propulsion Workshop in January of 2001. Some of the world's leading scientists in the field of electrogravitics were present, and so were we. Here's just a sample of what some of them had to say.
The Griffiths paper, which I know that Professor Petkov, are you Professor Petkov? It's my honor to know. Well, in this, in the second paper by Professor Petkov concerning the Griffiths, he states that it takes some 10 to the minus 15 of the meter to be the dipole in order to be effective in lifting. Because I read this paper by Petkov and Griffiths, and I was very much impressed about it. I would like to ask if there is any technique by which we could take advantage of this electrokinetic lifting force and shortcoming the burden of the 10 to the minus 15 of the meter. Have you got any ideas how we can proceed with this, which is very remarkable?
Probably the best way to answer this is tomorrow. I will address several probably ways to try to make use of that intrinsic connection between electromagnetism and gravity. And you know, the classical electromagnetic mass theory revealed such a connection between electromagnetism and inertia. So in fact, addressing the connection between electromagnetism and gravity or inertia, you're addressing both, but I will leave that tomorrow at this time.
The fourth thing is, even assuming we have a black box or black sphere out of some black project, you know, it has to have power going in order to convert the energy into another form of energy, which is the propulsion. We have to conserve our energy loss. And the fourth thing is, where's that power going to come from? What kind of scale of power are we going to need? Yes, okay. And what kind of technology would provide it? Now, obviously, in the early days, if you get solar panels, like they have on Mir and the space station, and you don't want to go too far out, and they say no further than Mars, then that's a well-tested technology, and as long as the sun shines, you're going to get power. And that might be doable for small missions and small payloads and small thrusters in the first generation. But if you want to do deep missions, the farther you get away from the sun, the power from the cells falls off exponentially, like a ski slope, with almost nothing. And you're going to need some other source. And obviously you are defeating the object if you take along a huge tank of chemicals that are using as propellant, use them to generate electricity, because you're back to square one again. So it has to be, if not solar, then nuclear, because that's got 4 to 5 magnitudes more power per weight than a chemical system. So we're talking several thousand times more energy available in the same package, for the same weight and the same volume. And that's the whole problem then of technology being mature, technology being safe, being compact, being reliable, and that's a whole new can of worms which you will want to look at anyway for conventional space propulsion, space missions. Unfortunately, people are spending money on that, and they are looking at it for those reasons. But that technology will come across and plug in, hopefully, to the technology we might develop. But then, beyond that, there's a whole new raft of ideas that are coming up, which is the other part of the flip coin of this conference, which is zero-point energy and other unconventional energy sources, possibilities of vacuum extraction of energy from the vacuum, in which Hal here is an expert, and related ideas. It may be, and Professor Vigier has a very good paper to give on this tomorrow, that as well as getting a breakthrough in our propulsion systems, we might even have a breakthrough in our energy systems to power it. And if that happens, then the consequences, not just for space travel, but for our entire society and culture, are going to be extremely profound. And therefore, for those of you who are not so interested in space travel, but are interested in the applications that spin off from it, this might be the most rewarding part of the conference.
We had Einstein calculating the so-called spontaneous emission coefficient, the A coefficient. Then a certain amount of time went by, and stimulated emission was known even back then, and then that eventually led to lasers and so on. But spontaneous emission was still just considered something that you were just given. That was it. But research in zero-point energy finally recognized that spontaneous emission isn't so spontaneous. It's actually a form of stimulated emission, stimulated by vacuum fluctuations. So once that was recognized, which was recognized as a theoretical concept, then you had the idea of, well, it would really be great to control the spontaneous emission rate of excited atoms. And so once it was realized that atoms in an excited state are sort of like pencils standing on its end, and so fluctuations which knock it down, then came the idea in the 80s that, okay, well, we'll build a cavity, we'll eliminate the modes at that transition frequency, therefore we eliminate the zero-point energy in that mode. And therefore, if we put the atom in that particular cavity, it will stay excited, and it won't spontaneously emit. So in fact, that started the whole field of cavity quantum electrodynamics, and now it's used to increase spontaneous emission rates by a factor of 100. So here is a case where actual practical application came by recognizing that vacuum fluctuation theory could be used to actually control something that was thought to be well understood and well known, but nobody realized you could get a handle on it. And so that's a nice transition where theory actually comes in and permits you to deal with something you've been dealing with for decades because you had a theoretical foundation in which you started to ask a new question and then came up with a new answer and then a new application. So this is not just a few decimal places. I mean, this is a big factor of 100. And also you can go the other way. You can speed up so-called spontaneous emission by even greater factors.
Back in March this year, we attended the 10th International UFO Congress and Film Convention, staged over 7 days in the casino resort of Laughlin, Nevada. Almost 30 leading international researchers and best-selling authors delivered lectures to a near-capacity 1,000-strong audience. Throughout the week, Congress delegates enjoyed special functions, such as the cocktail evening and the Grand Gala dinner, at which the EB Awards are presented to some of the year's top UFO film and video productions. Elsewhere, enthusiasts and the general public alike can often be found browsing through a wide variety of UFO and alien-related merchandise in the vendor's room. It was here that we managed to grab a few words with Ron Russell, one of America's leading experts on crop circles and a frequent visitor to England during the summer months. We began by asking what Ron thought of Colin Andrews' assertion, much publicised last year, that the vast majority of crop circles are nothing more than
hoaxes.
Yes,
it's disturbing because people have done very poor research in this area. When I first started going to the crop circles, I figured that most of them were man-made. I found evidence that they were, and I just went about my business because I thought they were marvelous places. I think the problem comes in when you say a figure, of a certain figure, 80%, 20%. That's not provable, and it's just a guess. A lot of formations, from my experience, are man-made, but they fall into different categories. There are hoaxes. Forget about it. There's nothing happening. They're made for deception. But some are spiritual machines or hermetic devices or magical temples and they're made with higher intention, not a deception. So they can't be called hoaxes. We have to, as a community of researchers, come up with an understanding that there are many levels of man-made phenomena, just as there are many levels of beyond human phenomena. Could be ET, could be time travelers, could be astral beings from another dimension, could be fairy spirits and elementals. And I think it's all of the above. Some of the human-made formations have great power. A power to heal people, far beyond psychosomatic effect and placebo effect. The power we see in magnetometer fluctuations, anomalous readings in magnetometers, anomalous readings in microwave detectors, anomalous readings in our Trek 520 electrostatic detector, which doesn't happen in a hoax formation. Here's another further piece of good evidence. Some of the human circle makers I've talked to do this for contact. They like the juju that they get in the middle of the night. I have gone out with them and watched. I don't make crop circles, but I watched them, and while I didn't see anything that particular night, they report that this indeed is really quite a puzzling part of their work. The magic is real. It is there. We've heard before, if there's only one real one, but there are many more than that, and I'm not going to get into percentages. That's where Colin fell down, because he put a number on it, and you can't do that. You just don't know. And his estimation was confined really to England. I mean, we had 4 formations in North Dakota here in America, and Minnesota and Wisconsin, and these are in fields with no tram lines, with no access points, and photos have been taken where they're, how could that be? So there is a real phenomena, but I would encourage people to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Even in human facilitated formations, the magic is there. Contact opportunities are there. Balls of light and ships are seen by people in those formations. They go into a human facilitated formation and have healing and have epiphany and meet their guardian angel. And so let's get serious here. We have a great opportunity to learn about ourselves, to learn about the nature of illusion and deception at the edge of reality, or assumed reality. And I think it's time for us to grow up, embrace the whole phenomena. Some are magical devices, some are trashy hoaxes, some come from beyond. That's the way I